Because also the reality is that even the people who love you and value you and like, you know, think that the sun rises and sets right out of your butthole are still sometimes going to miss the things that you do for them. Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming back if you've been here before, or hi, welcome if you're new. My name is Mickey. I'm a therapist and we talk about therapist-y things on this channel. Today we are talking about TikTok. Before we talk about TikTok, full disclosure, I have a tummy ache and I'm being so brave about it. But if I'm rubbing my belly in this video, it's just because I'm fat and have a tummy ache, not because I'm pregnant. Please don't be speculating in my comments. It's both rude and inaccurate. We're talking about TikTok today because it's been a hot minute, and Erin actually found me some therapy-related TikToks that I have not watched yet. So we're going to watch those together and just kind of chit-chat about some general mental health stuff and also hopefully have some nice laughs. So that's what we're doing. Let's just get into it. Okay, we're going to watch this one that Erin sent me, and then we'll watch some other ones that are saved to my phone. Erin just saved them for me, so let's do this first.
We're in a situation. We're in a tough situation right now.
We actually made a video about this. It should be up by the time that you guys are watching this, about capitalism and like the relationship between capitalism and oppression and therapy and mental illness. This is a thing that's important for us to acknowledge, and actually like real work that you can be doing with a therapist to talk about how the constructs that we're forced to live within can cause us to have mental illness sometimes. And it's important that we acknowledge that, because oftentimes we like pathologize our reactions and like behaviors when like if we contextualize them in this environment that like is oppressive and like marginalizes us and treats us like shit, it makes a lot more sense. And so it can be very validating actually to do this work. So if you haven't yet, I highly encourage you to do that. There are links in the description to find therapists as always, but there's also one in there specifically for BIPOC therapists if you are a person who feels that that would resonate more. Okay, here we go.
Well, I guess Rocco will never be able to float.
Oh, well, too bad. Bye, Rocco.
Listen, this is like a yes and. Sometimes therapists do maybe like secretly feel this way, but your therapist should never be like invalidating your emotions like this. I won't lie though. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that like I've never had this reaction or I've never talked to other therapists who've had this reaction, mostly because it's exciting to see a client learn how to embrace their own value and to like cut ties or distance themselves from people who don't see their value. But if your therapist does this and is just like, whatever, like that's flippant and that's fucked up, don't do that. And also you can call your therapist out onto the carpet if they do that to you, because that's not very nice.
You shut up! I'm so fucking scared right now, you shut up!
Yes, this is also a real thing, actually. I think a lot of people are apt to just like discount this because like we're grown-ups, we should be able to go to the grocery store and like it'll be fine. But like also sensory issues are a real thing. And even if you're not a neurodivergent person or someone with some other like sensory issues that are coming to the table, just generally being anxious can cause day-to-day tasks to feel like awful and like insurmountable. I do just really want to validate that like, first of all, this is a conversation that as a clinician I have hosted many times of like, what are our barriers from meeting our day-to-day needs, like going to the grocery store? How can we adjust that or meet those? But also that like this is a real thing, this is valid. If there are like systems that you need to put in place or resources or supports that you need, you're not being a baby, you're not being too sensitive or whatever. Also, Costco is hell on earth. I don't care what anybody says. I love the food from Costco and I love all of the stuff that they have inside of Costco, but it makes me want to rip my hair out because it's just, it's overwhelming, you know? Yeah, this is giving like oldest child syndrome, or like especially the eldest female child in a family kind of energy. This is a common thing, and I want to encourage people to unlearn this. This is not healthy or helpful, and especially like in our capitalist culture, we glorify working all the time and overworking ourselves and being these people who are just like unflappable, right? First of all, the truth is that you are in fact very flappable, and that's fine. No person is above nervous system dysregulation or exhaustion or overwhelm, but also just like the repression of those emotions and things is not something that you should get a gold star for. That's not something that we as a culture should be celebrating, even though we do. It is fucked up. And there is wisdom, there is value, there is strength, there is empowerment in learning how to honor what your limits are and how to safely meet those. And so if this is you, I want to encourage you to be nice to yourself, to practice some self-love, and also to work on this in therapy if you can, because it's very much like workable. It's work that can be done.
Since you got your degree and you know every fucking thing.
I made a TikTok about this on my main account a little while ago. The phenomenon of like millennial and Gen Z people holding their parents accountable for trauma and abuse in their childhood has stirred up a lot of feathers, or like stirred up a lot of feelings, I guess. That's not a phrase. Can you imagine if you're just like stirring? It doesn't matter. Anyways, it's ruffled a lot of feathers or stirred up a lot of feelings for folks, but it is like very meaningful and worthwhile work to be doing. And I want to encourage people to keep doing it. The thing about boundary setting that's important to remember is that, first of all, in the early phases, it will be unpopular work. People won't really like you very much. For acknowledging that like you are taking something from me that I didn't really consent for you to take, or like this relationship structure doesn't work for me and it feels abusive, or it's causing me to like not want to be in this relationship anymore. That's not popular work to be doing, but it doesn't mean that you're wrong for doing it or that you're doing it wrong necessarily. I do want to encourage people to practice boundary setting alongside a therapist if you're able to. I know that therapy is not an accessible resource for everyone though, and so I do just want to encourage you generally to have a community of people to help create this like safe environment for you to do check-ins, to make sure that you're continuing to boundary set from this like North Star place of like self-empowerment, self-safety, rather than wanting to have power and control over others. Because there is like some nuance with boundary setting, but generally setting boundaries, especially with parents, and being clear about the impact of other people's behavior is a good thing, is a valuable thing. And I just want to give you an internet therapist high five for doing that if you are.
Good evening. Tonight's top story, everything is awful. Okay,
this is relatable, but also something actually that is like worth discussing, because this like gold star syndrome that a lot of millennials and Gen Z, I guess, probably does this too. The majority of my clinical experiences with folks millennial and older, but this is a thing that we do where we feel most valued and seen, and like our self-worth comes from the validation of others. Stop that. Stop doing that. It's not helpful to you and it's not healthy. I really want to encourage people to unlearn this, and I know that it's not that simple. This is a funny haha space. This is work that you can do with a therapist in a self-compassionate way, in a slow way, with an attitude of like caution and self-respect. But generally, I want to encourage people to practice the perspective shift there, because feeling like our worth comes from the validation of others gets us into a lot of trouble. And also take the power out of your hands when we talk about doing self-esteem work. It's sort of a losing game to be chasing approval from others all the time. And the real like power move is in learning how to validate yourself, to see your own worth, and to have your own back regardless of what the people in the room or that you're in relationship with think or say or feel. Because also the reality is that even the people who love you and value you and like, you know, think that the sun rises and sets right out of your butthole are still sometimes going to miss the things that you do for them, or like the things that you do generally, things that you're doing well, things that are worthy of praise. And when we have this like deep core wound around needing approval from others, when someone misses it, it feels deeply personal, when really it might just be that they're overwhelmed, or maybe they're neurodivergent, or, you know, it wasn't something that they knew that you were doing in the first place. And so they didn't notice or like think to congratulate you about it, but it doesn't make the thing that you did less valuable. I hope that that makes sense. I don't know what is happening or why I'm on Pedro Pascal like thirst trap TikTok or like Pedro Pascal TikTok at all. I'm not mad about it necessarily, but I haven't watched this Hot Ones interview yet, but it does look really funny. This is like, first of all, very much a thing that people do, but also I think just like a nice place for a friendly reminder that coping skills sometimes make the difference between us having a little mentee bee and us not. If you cope with humor, that's fine. If you cope through other ways, that's also fine. But generally, I want to encourage people to not white knuckle your way through, because that's also not healthy or helpful. Moving on.
Since you got your degree and you know every fucking thing.
Wait, what? Hold on, I have to rewind. I didn't get to read all of this.
Since you got your degree And you know every fucking thing.
Why are we on like therapist X hating TikTok? Like, I'm not mad about it. I will say this is sometimes the use in having an objective listener in your life, because nostalgia is sometimes a liar and we can get sucked into these cyclical patterns in relationships. And so having that objective person to just kind of mirror, like, we talked about this, you know, last week or last month or whatever. And so like, where are we at with that now? Is actually helpful. Again, I know that it's a joke. I know that, and I know that I'm being kind of a downer, but I do just want to clarify that your therapist shouldn't talk to you like this. Your therapist shouldn't be like, well, that's not what I wrote down, because like, that's not very helpful or empowering. The work in being an objective listener is just like objectively holding the facts and saying, what I'm hearing you say is this, but what I've also heard you say is this. How can we talk about these two things maybe fitting together? Or like, how can we reconcile the existence of these two things? That's important work to be doing, and like the mark of an effective clinician, in my opinion, especially because therapists are not supposed to have their own opinions in the room. Like, we can think and feel whatever we want, but it's not supposed to influence our work with our clients. We're supposed to be able to remove that. That's the whole point of being an objective listener, is that we're being objective. So just as food for thought, I've seen a lot of therapist horror stories in the comments, and I want to be clear, if your therapist is being like pushy or nosy or like trying to bulldoze over top of you, that's not cool, and you can hold them to task for that.
Do you think you could apologise to Angie? And
I'm not apologizing to that old bitch. Absolutely fucking not.
Listen, I'm here for this energy. I want to just like clarify that every therapist has their own style. This tends to be mine, though. I'm not even gonna lie. When clients come with this energy, personally, I'm here for it. It is important that we eventually backtrack and like have a conversation about like, maybe that's not why we're not going to talk to them, but it's because we're preserving our personal safety. But still, I am personally just more so on board for folks setting boundaries in whatever way feels feasible and approachable for them. And then we can like do some more of the work around like nuance as we go. But especially in like family and parental boundary work, I found that just like getting over that initial hump is the hardest thing. And so if having this energy in the room is what a client needs to do to get them over that hump, then, you know, I'm fine with that.
You shut up! I'm so fucking scared right now. You shut up.
Apparently, we're also on like overstimulated in the grocery store TikTok. Also, for real, what is it with Trader Joe's? As a person who has sensory issues and is also anxious, I love Trader Joe's so much. I love all of the food there. Why is it such a fucking nightmare to shop there though? Like, is it a conspiracy? Am I supposed to like it? Do you like it? Like, can you please put in the comments? Can somebody please tell me? Every Trader Joe's in the city where I live has a terrible parking lot, is teeny tiny, and is filled with fucking people at all hours of the day. I just don't understand. This is a real thing. And again, I want to encourage people to employ whatever coping skills you need to like muddle your way through, especially if there's Trader Joe's food on the other end of it. But like, for real, this is a real thing and it's very overwhelming.
He thought he was a freak till he met me, and now I'm finna show him what it's about. I'm finna slut this.
This is not a real thing. Listen, co-regulation through physical touch and like physical touch generally as a means of coping is real and useful, but also not a reason to stop taking your antidepressants. I want to be so abundantly clear on this channel. If you are going to stop taking your antidepressants, please talk with somebody about it so that you can do it safely, because there is a safe and unsafe way to do it. And just because like this happens all the time, and I know that this sounds like I'm being a mom, but like this is important. We do this all the time where we get into a good relationship, or like our job is going really well, or like the sun has come out and we're like, I don't need antidepressants anymore. I don't need to be on medication anymore. And like, yes, you might need to, and it's important that you touch base with a professional first before we just go throwing medication away or stopping taking it altogether. It is entirely feasible and possible that the like environment and circumstances of your life have changed, and so you don't need medication anymore. But it's still important to taper off it safely. Please talk with somebody about it. Please, God, I'm begging. Just talk with someone about it, because it's dangerous. It's actually dangerous. And also it can be really uncomfortable when you do it wrong. It doesn't need to feel bad. It doesn't need to feel awful. There's a way that you can taper off of antidepressants or like medication generally that doesn't have to feel awful. So like, please don't do that.
TikTok. Okay.
Yeah. This is also very much a thing. I know that TikTok is like structured in a way that it does kind of tend to like tend to like steal our time and just be this sort of self-soothing activity. And again, I want to encourage people to employ coping skills that work for you, but it is also important to assess whether we are actually coping or if we're just avoiding something. And a lot of times folks use TikTok to avoid. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not judging, because like I do it too. You know, and my therapist is on my back about it. But that doesn't mean that it's a good thing that we should be doing or something that we should just be giving ourselves a write-off for. It's important that we practice the skills that actually help us move through the emotion instead of moving away from the emotion.
Just to hear my brother say, yo, what's up, what's up?
You see, this is what I'm talking about. This time of year tends to be really interesting actually as a clinician because the sun is coming out again, because it's getting warm again, because people are outside more, because it's just like generally nicer to exist. And it's very interesting to see the impact that this has on people's mental illness. If you think that like winter time and the cold and the quiet and the darkness don't affect people's mental illness, you are wrong. That's not how it works. There's also a reason that people tend to move to sunnier states when they like chronically, clinically struggle with these things, because it just helps. Like, it's just a supportive factor. The reality is that human beings are meant to see sunshine, and we enjoy it a lot. It does a lot of really cool things. There's lots of science about it. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get into it, but there's lots of really interesting science about the way that the sunlight actually affects our bodies and our brains and our moods and things like that. And so also, as a pro tip, if you're having a particularly rough time, I call it lizard time. I think I've talked about it before, but just being outside, I just like dead ass lay down on the ground, like on the concrete, because I find it soothing. That might just be a me thing, but being in the sun generally tends to be helpful, and it's like a nice way to help reset the nervous system and potentially boost your mood if you need it. So,
All right, sweetie, you ready to get some new notebooks and protractors and slacks?
I want blue jeans.
You're getting slacks!
this audio is my favorite, but also I would just like to use this opportunity to advocate for like the why not both perspective. You can have all of the like body mods and like personal aesthetic choices that you want that bring you joy, and also do the work on unlearning the toxicity with other family relationships, with processing trauma from family relationships. I know, again, it's a joke. I know that. I'm not, you get it. But just for what it's worth, the joy and like the serotonin that we get from like dyeing our hair or like going shopping or like, you know, buying a little coffee or whatever is like valid and worthwhile, but also is not a replacement for doing like the deeper underlying work. And again, I know that therapy is not an accessible resource for everyone. However, it's not to say that it will never be accessible in your lifetime, or that like, you know, there's not a way to still do some of that work. And so I want to encourage people to keep an eye on that, because it is important that we be doing the processing and the learning and like the stuff, you know, around these deeper core issues instead of just like ignoring it completely. So I think we are going to wrap it up there for today. I don't even know how many TikToks that was, but I feel like it was a fair amount. And also, like I said at the beginning, my tummy hurts. So I'm going to go take a Tums. I hope that you guys are having a great day. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel. We make videos like this, and we do a cute pop culture moment every now and again, so I'd love to have you stay. And then share the video to help the channel grow and to help each other grow, and I will see you guys next Saturday. Okay, bye.